Welcome to the Real Estate Debate.
Oh, right, guy.
And today we're debating the hottest topics in real estate.
But I'm not going to stop yelling because then that'll mean I lost the fight.
And now, the host of the Real Estate Debate, Mr. Credit, on ESPN Radio 1700.
Let the games begin. Hey-o.
All right, welcome. It is that time. Welcome to the Real Estate Debate, your lunch hour with Mr. Credit every Friday right here on ESPN 1700. Today we have a fantastic show for you. Of course, Real Estate Debate is where we debate the hottest topics in San Diego real estate. Let's introduce our guest panel. We'll start from the left. If you're watching on MrCredit.tv, it's from the right. Jim Tyner is here from Home Solutions Group and HomesandLoans.net. Jim, did I get it right?
Yes, you sure did.
Okay, Jim Tyner, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's your first time on the show.
It is.
It's your first time on radio, too, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, there's a chance you could walk away with the golden mic today.
Oh, man.
How does that sound?
My dreams would be fulfilled.
Dreams come true on this show right here. We also have in the studio today Lynn Judson from Judson Real Estate and JudsonRealEstate.net. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great to have
It's
you.
nice to be here.
It is great to have you here, and I know that you may have been a little nervous earlier, but I can tell right now your game face is on. You're representing all of the women in the industry today. Did you know that?
Nice. All right. For the women.
Win one for the women today. She could take home the golden mic as well. And we've had a repeat guest on the show many times before. Brian Curry is here from Caldwell Banker. A little bit under the weather.
A little bit under the weather.
But a trooper.
A trooper.
Coming in today because...
I'm going to grind it out today. That's a big trophy in front of me. I got my sights set high today.
Yeah.
So elusive so far, but I know that you're bringing your A game today.
I am bringing my A game today.
Awesome stuff. Let's go ahead and jump in. Now, the first thing that I saw, we do a little bit different. Normally, we take the temperature of the market in the first segment, and today I want to talk about something that's a little more conceptual. What we've seen across the country is the homeownership rate declining, and we're actually at the lowest level in the United States in 19 years. The homeownership rate, what I mean by that is the percentage of people who are homeowners is at its lowest level in almost 20 years in this country. And by the way, it also continues to decline in San Diego as well, with all the signs pointing toward that not changing anytime soon. I mean, we're seeing construction is a lot of multifamily. All the new housing starts are multifamily stuff, tons of rentals and rental properties, and the amount of single-family homes that are being constructed declining as well. So it seems like this trend is going to continue. So the question that I have for you is this, and Jim, we're going to start with you. Is it more likely this is a sign of the new times, or does this mean that there's a potential surge, a pent-up demand in home buyers that will be coming around at some point in the future? Jim, what do you think?
Well, I think that there is a lot of demand out there. However, we don't have the builders are not building the right kind of housing needed in order for them to purchase a home. A single-family home, especially in San Diego, it's just really hard to buy a single-family detached home and afford it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the main issue that we have right now is just the type of housing they're building is mostly rental, and because there's just easy money in it, and developers are worried about exposing themselves to the volatility which I believe is coming in the short term.
Well, we're seeing some inventory levels that are higher than we've seen in several years. What do you say to that in regard to is it just not the right inventory? What's the problem there?
Well, I think that the home seller also reads the newspaper and sees price appreciation, maybe thinking like, hey, let's do this thing. They're timing it or attempting to time it. So I think that's the main motivation for a lot of folks. Some people were underwater initially, and now they're have equity in their home, and they're like, hey, now we can actually move to the place we really wanted to 4 years ago, but we couldn't.
Yeah, no, that absolutely makes sense. You're right. It seems like that's exactly what's happened. Strangely, Lynn, what do you think? Is this a sign of the new times? This homeownership rate dropping? Is this just going to be the new status quo, or does this just mean there's going to be a whole bunch of home buyers coming down the road?
I think it's the latter. I would be really sad if this is the new norm. I don't think that's good for our country. I don't think it's good for our communities. I don't think it's good for the individual. I attribute it to two different things. One is we're still stinging from the recession, the bubble, the burst, where people lost their homes. And I witnessed a lot of really good people with good jobs even that lost their homes. So now they have that ding on their credit, and so they're not able to buy right now. I think that's creating a pent-up demand because these people think like homeowners. They're just not being allowed to get back into that arena just yet. There's things changing in that, making it a little, the FHA and all that are working to get people back in homes a little sooner. But the other thing I think that would drastically change that picture is jobs. I think if the job market came around, that would change drastically because we are seeing, and I think it is being pretty well reported, that you have the generational, the different generations living in the same home. You have adult children going back home. You have elderly parents moving in with the baby boomers are really absorbing a lot of this. And so you have those different groups that would actually split out if there were jobs and if the economy was buzzing along a little bit better. So I'm hoping for jobs, and then I think that time will heal the other where people would prefer home ownership. Yeah,
no, I agree with that. And in fact, I'm not only hoping for jobs, but the right kind of jobs, right? Because we saw almost a 20% increase in home values in San Diego County last year, but we saw almost a 10% decrease in household income, the average household income. And that's a divergence that just can't exist forever. Something's got to change there. Brian, what do you think about this kind of change in the thought process of home ownership, or at least the seemingly change?
I think it is a change, and I think it's a geographical change. San Diego, I think this is a little bit more of the new times. When you look at San Diego's buyers pool, we have a lot of military in San Diego. We have a lot of startups in San Diego. So we have a lot of people that intend to move on at some point. So the value of home ownership in San Diego tends now to be a more long-term projection instead of, hey, I'm going to hold on to this for 3 years. I'm going to get my next orders, or I'm going to take my next job in the Midwest, get my pay raise, and move on. So I think you have a longer market now. So I do think it's a little bit more of the new times. A buyer comes into San Diego and he wants to know what's available, more importantly, what's affordable, and what's my goals, what's my projections for my future. And I think that's the change in San Diego. I still think it's going to be a healthy market in San Diego, but I do think that the buyers are more wary, they're more educated, and they're more goal-oriented, which makes this a little bit more the new times.
I agree 100%. And what you're saying makes sense to the extent that, if someone comes in and previously would have said, all right, we're moving to San Diego, let's buy a house. So, never lived in San Diego before, but let's go there, let's buy a house in San Diego. Can't go wrong. Now that person is going, let's rent, because we don't know if we're buying at the top of the market. We don't want to get burned. That thing didn't, that thought process didn't enter people's minds, 5-10 years ago, whereas now it's kind of like top of mind. It's like, is it a good time to buy? Is it a safe investment for me? Because the stakes are really high, let's be honest.
Yeah, I think that the buyers, too, got a little bit jaded. You go back, and like I said, buyers are educated now. And you go back to 2004, 5, 6, market's got this huge run-up. And I know that there was buyers going, you know what, I'm buying into this weather. I think when we went over the hump and really crashed in the market in San Diego, people realized that the weather's great, but it doesn't have that much value. So I think that that's a big change. And I think buyers are just, you have a lot of this, I'm going to stand back against the market a little bit and watch and see what happens, see where things change.
Well, also, let's not forget, macro-wise, the builders and the available inventory, right? So we know that new homes, the amount of new homes being built every year is going down. And that's not going to change. We know that a lot of the builders that are active right now are building multifamily. And so what's happening is they're realizing, why do we want to build condos where we're just sell them, and then once we're all sold, we've got what we're going to get, when we can build this revenue machine. We can build a building that is a huge ATM machine and just spits out large amounts of cash every month. And so you have to ask yourself, where's the motivation for a builder to go and take the risk as well, because they're also burned in this whole thing.
Yeah, that's an availability question. And I think when the builders, look at San Diego County, there's not a lot of dirt to build on. Right. And when you have an availability issue, so if I'm a buyer coming into San Diego and my availability is limited, and the new construction mostly has, for the most part, pretty high fees associated with it as well, I'm going to rent. I'm going to settle in.
I'm seeing builders actually picking up property right now, and there were a lot of developments that were in the works when everything tanked. Those are pretty much all getting eaten up. If you're just jumping into that bandwagon right now, you're a little late, I would say. And they are picking up those that already had entitlements and all that already, on the land. They're just waiting. I'm kind of disagreeing with you about this is a new wave and this is how it's going to be. It is where we are in this point of time, but we always go back and forth in real estate. We have in my entire life, and it's usually in the past, it's always been in like 10-year increments. You know, every 10 years we just have this major spike and everybody has fun, and then go in the tank and it goes the other way. And I'm kind of praying you're wrong, Brian. Because,
I'm praying I'm wrong too, by the way.
Yeah, because I don't think that that's a healthy, good thing for our society. I just don't. I think home ownership. We have the phrase the pride of of ownership, the pride of and just the difference between how you drive a rental car versus how you drive your own car.
Sure.
It's just better for everyone involved that our neighborhoods look better. People are invested in it. They're paying property taxes, so they care about how that money is spent. And but back to the point. I do see developers. They're holding that and they're ready to spring. But we don't have jobs. The economy is still. And there's a lot of uncertainty right now going on. If we can level out that, then I think you'll see boom. It's happened before. I've seen it happen before.
True.
So,
and I wanted to ask you that because I know you're Escondido. Your office is Escondido.
Yeah.
That's a little bit different up there. You got some areas like Valley Center where you still can buy a house with a couple acres.
Right.
That's relatively new. So that does exist. So there's different things going on in San Diego. Same thing down in South Bay, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think speaking to that, there's a generational issue too. The millennials, our first-time home buyers, and even Gen X folks, they're more urban focused than we've ever seen. In the last 50 years at least. North Park and South Park and that whole area, Morleyfield, downtown, has seen this renaissance based on young people wanting to move there instead of, say, Escondido or Eastlake or where have you. And so the problem with that is that we don't. The amount of land there is so scarce. The homes are old, and you got issues. You got foundation issues. You got other things. And for a developer, it's really hard to pay $500,000 for a home in North Park, tear the thing down and rebuild it like most folks want, or make it more modern like the kids want nowadays. So I think there's a generational thing here too that's a shift that I've seen.
Yeah, we have a generational issue we have to get over. There's no question. Most people in their late 20s, early 30s, it's boring. The idea of going to the suburbs, it's a joke. It's actually a punchline. Sure. It's a boring joke. It's like, no, I don't want to be out in the suburbs. What are we going to do? Sit around all day and water the yard? That sounds boring to me.
HOA.
Yeah. What are you talking about? I would much rather be downtown where all the action is. Right. And so and I live downtown, and I'm one of those people. Yeah. So I mean, it totally makes sense to me. Great stuff. Opening segment. We are at a dead heat right now. The score is tied, all notched up at 14 apiece. Coming up, our first debate topic. Prices have come up quite a bit since the recession, and interest rates have ticked up as well. So we're going to have our in-studio guests tell us who should not buy a home in today's market. Stick around. We'll make you smarter than everyone else. It's guaranteed. All right, welcome back. Happy Friday. It is your lunch hour. Mr. Credit here, guaranteeing to make you smarter than everyone else. It's Friday, so we're doing the real estate debate, debating the hottest topics in San Diego real estate. Who will take home the Golden Microphone Trophy today? Will it be Brian Curry from Caldwell Banker, Lynn Judson from Judson Real Estate, or Jim Tyner from Home Solutions Group? We are ready for our first debate topic. Lynn, we'll be starting with you. Prices have come up quite a bit, since the recession lows. Interest rates have also gone up a little bit, still very low, historically speaking, but they've also gone up. Tell me, in your opinion, who is actually wise to not be looking to buy real estate right now?
That's kind of an easy question there, Derek.
Okay.
The only person I think that shouldn't be looking to buy a home is someone that can't afford it. And then I think they should maybe talk to a financial counselor or somebody that can help them get them, on the road in that direction. I really believe in my product. I really do. Buying real estate is, everybody needs shelter, right? So you're either going to rent or buy. Mm-hmm. So that's a given. And but if you can add the value that you get with owning real estate, and that is such a huge hedge against inflation, you could go out and buy gold, but you are going to be paying for shelter either way. So you can have that happening for you at the same time. My first house payment was $400 a month. Who wouldn't want to do that? I mean, that house is probably worth in today's market about just under $500,000 today. So if you're renting that house today, it would probably cost you $2,200, $2,300 a month. So it just gives you options. I know you recently wrote an article about how your home is not an investment, and I was glad you wrote that because people do confuse that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not an investment in the true sense, of the word, but it can be, a good investment. I recently, a couple of years ago, I sold a couple their first home, and then I contacted them just months ago and told them, your home's worth over $100,000 more than you paid for it. And he listened to me. He refinanced his home. He took out the $100,000 that had grown while he was sleeping, and his payments didn't change because of the refinancing. So it wasn't a blip on his radar. He wasn't going to have to save and scrimp or anything to do this. And we went out and we bought him an investment property here in Claremont Mesa. And he has that investment property working for him too now, and that has a positive cash flow. The tenant's making the payments, and he's making a few $100 more every month. And now that is starting to appreciate. Well, he actually bought this. It was like the middle of last year. I'm getting my time frame a little messed up. But last year in our county, we went on average up like 20%.
Yeah.
He bought it in the middle of the year. So let's just say his appreciated 10% since he bought it. And he paid just under $300, but just for the sake of simplicity, he paid $300. He's already made $30,000 in appreciation on that property, and it's all because he was a homeowner, and he took out the equity out of his home, didn't change his lifestyle one bit, actually just enhanced it. So I could go on the rest of the day, but I know these other men want to talk. But that's why I believe
like
in home ownership.
I like the points. First of all, mentioning the article that I wrote got you a point. Second of all, talking about, you could buy gold and hedge against inflation. You can't live in a piece of gold. I've always wondered what people are doing buying gold. It's like, what are you going to do, throw it at somebody? They say it's there for a disaster, but if a disaster really strikes, what are you going to do with your gold?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's funny, but you can live in your house. So that's a very, very good point to make. Is that, a lot of people are concerned about inflation. A lot of people see these things lining up. Hey, inflationary times coming around. Other people will tell you it's already here. Look at what happens when you go to the grocery store. Look at what happens when you buy this product, that product. It's kind of disguised because of technology and the fact that your iPad is still the same amount, even though it gets better and better every year, and that's truly deflation. But it's a different concept. So very, very important points made by Lynn. Mr. Curry, what do you think?
You
should not buy a house today.
I wrote down hedge against inflation on my notepad because that's
Nice.
absolutely where we should go. The most brilliant man I know said that to me a couple months ago. So, I think that, and I'm going to echo Lynn a little bit here. I think that those that should not be, I think everybody should be buying a home. But I think that purchase, that investment, if you will, needs to be based on a goals assessment. I think that because everybody's goals are different, everybody's position is different, whether it's a first-time home buyer, a move-up buyer, an equity buyer, an investment buyer, I think that we really need to sit these people down and do a goals assessment and see exactly what the strategy is. Because I do think that everybody should get in the market. It's just where, when, what price point, where's the tipping point for them? And I think that's a critical piece of being a broker in this day and age, because the industry's changed significantly. I've been doing this for 15 years now, and it's from when I started, which was about get me in, get me in, get me in. Everybody in the market's making money. Well, now it's about let's evaluate, let's assess, let's make sure that we are strategically positioning ourselves in the market to move forward. And I think that's the critical piece. So those that shouldn't be buying, I think to answer that question, if I'm taking a job temporarily in San Diego and I'm leaving in 6 months, maybe I don't want to buy. Maybe I want to come in and test the waters. But even those people, if the income stream is proper, can find something that has some cash flow in it. So,
yeah.
So I think that's the critical piece there, is really taking a look at what the objectives are strategically.
Okay, I love that. Yeah, and you got to have strategy. You got to have plan. I mean, heck, you're talking to the guy who wrote the life plan, which, by the way, is available for free at mrcredit.org. Yeah, you got to have a plan, especially for something this big. This isn't buying a car. You don't just, get a bug, to go buy a car on Tuesday and then go to the lot on Saturday and drive it home. This is something that's totally different. It's a very big deal, and people now have realized, as Lynn mentioned earlier, people have gotten burned. They've realized that there is potential downside. There is risk involved. It is not a risk-free situation. Jim, what do you think? Who should not be buying a house?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with my colleague slightly. There is anybody who's looking. possibly reselling in 2 to 3 years, I would suggest not purchasing. And the reason is because there is going to be some changes federally coming up that are going to increase the volatility of our housing market. One, the Fed funds rate is going to go up next year. Second, the quantitative easing is tapering down. What's going to happen with those? Most likely, it's going to cause mortgage rates to go up. Our policy, whether you agree with it or not, our government has printed a lot of money. And that is going to be coming up to roost at some point in the form of inflation. What do we do to deal with inflation? We raise interest rates. And what happens then? Mortgage interest rates generally reflect that. And why is that important here in San Diego is because already in our housing prices, the majority of folks can't afford to buy a home in San Diego just based on the housing prices. The fact that we've artificially lowered interest rates has allowed them to purchase a home in the last couple of years. Last year, we saw this huge run up based on low 3% interest rates. This year, I think we can all agree that the market is much softer, and I believe that's because of low 4% interest rates. What happens then if we start seeing 5? I mean, maybe we can weather it, but we start seeing 5.5, we're going to have a serious problem on our hands. I mean, as far as short term. And so, for example, say a parent is buying a condo for their kid who's going to college. That is somebody I wouldn't suggest purchasing right now because that is too short of a time frame. Unless, of course, they plan on keeping it and renting it out, then have at it. A military person. A lot of military folks buy and hold, but some folks in fact, we just closed Esther on a deal that those folks were here for 3 years and left. It worked out well for them, but these next 3 years, I'd be very concerned if I'm a military person and I don't have a long time horizon.
Okay. No, I can certainly appreciate that perspective. You're right. There are some things coming up that logically make sense. Interest rates could go up. Traditional thinking is that if interest rates go up, prices will at least hold, if not go down or come in a little bit. We haven't seen that happen here the last couple times interest rates have gone up. So there's also people who could go and do some research and say, well, interest rates go up, but prices still go up in San Diego. That's how desirable it is. That's how much demand there is for the right inventory.
Well, that didn't happen in the bust, regardless of San Diego.
True. True.
It didn't.
It didn't. You're right.
We are not.
But they were also lowering interest rates during that period, and prices were going down.
Yeah.
So that relationship, or the idea that the relationship between interest rates and prices correlate inversely in San Diego, doesn't seem to hold true. Well, but it is still increased risk.
Yeah, it didn't at that time, just because we were in an unprecedented financial crisis in 2008, and right now we are dealing with this large price appreciation, and typical mom and pop family is just not going to be able to weather an additional $500 a month in a mortgage rate, at least without looking for some blood from the seller.
Understood.
I think that and Jim, you bring up a great point, but I also think that I don't know that the market right now is as predicated by rates as it is by consumer confidence. I think that you have a lot of people, and you look at a 3.5% interest rate to a 4.5% interest rate, and that $500 to $600 change in income. The reality in San Diego is mom and dad work. Mm-hmm. There's very few stay at home in the median market.
Right.
There's very few moms that stay home or dads that stay home. You have dual income families. So when you look at historical rates versus today's rates, and these rates have stayed within that 3 to 6% range for the last 10 years.
Yep.
That's unprecedented.
That's true.
So I think that the biggest change now is not necessarily the rates, but it's the consumer confidence with all the external factors, both internationally and nationally, that we have going on right now. I think that is the big bug for the buyer right now that's willing to step back. Because if you look at appreciation versus depreciation in San Diego right now, we are in a very flat, very elongated market, and in some senses, a very downturned market. So I think that's the driver right now is consumer confidence.
Very good points from everyone across the board. And I'll tell you, who should not buy a home, in my opinion, is just anyone who doesn't have a long-term outlook. Yeah. If you have a 10-year plus outlook, you should buy pretty much no matter what the marketplace is, because in the end, it doesn't matter. The home, like I wrote in the article, it's a hedge. You're hedging your costs, your housing costs, against whatever is going to happen in the rental marketplace, which is completely out of your control. You take it into your own control and you say, listen, I buy a house, my payment's $3,300, I can afford $3,300. Now I know I'm good. Now I know I can build my financial plan around that. I know what my costs are. It's all controlled. Whether the home goes up in value or not doesn't even matter, honestly. Doesn't even matter. Could go down in value, and guess what? You'll save money on taxes. So there's always a plus and a minus in this situation, but there's one thing that is for sure is if you own a home, in the end, you're going to be okay. If you do nothing else but pay off a house,
That's right.
you're going to be all right. You'll be okay. You'll be able to figure it out. If you haven't done that, though, you're going to have some challenges in retirement. All right, coming up, debate topic number 2. We're going to talk about those who should buy a home in today's market and where all the gems are hiding. We'll have our in-studio experts tell us where they're finding the best deals in San Diego County right now. Stick around. We'll make you smarter than everyone else. It's guaranteed. All right, welcome back. Thank you for hanging out. Mr. Credit here. It is your lunch hour. It is Friday. Hope you're having a great day. Of course, Friday means it's real estate debate on the lunch hour with Mr. Credit. Who will walk away with the Golden Microphone Trophy today? Will it be Brian Curry from Coldwell Banker, Lynn Judson from Judson Real Estate, or Jim Tyner from Home Solutions Group? They're all in studio today. We've got a very close match right now. It's going to be down to the wire. I can feel it. It's time for debate topic number 2. Brian Curry, you are up. For those who should buy a home in today's market, we just talked about who shouldn't. Where are all the gems hiding? Where are you finding the best deals in San Diego County right now?
That's a great question. And I'm going to answer this a little bit differently than I think what's expected, because I think the best deals, the best gem locations in San Diego are not location specific right now. I think they're number specific right now. Interesting. Because I think that when you get below $450,000, regardless of where you are in San Diego right now, and that's not every community in San Diego either, $450,000 and below moves very, very quickly, and it moves with a lot of cash on it usually. So that kind of eliminates a segment of the buyer's market right now. So you get into that $550,000 to $700,000 range. Everywhere in San Diego, there's great deals there because those are the properties that are most apt to do a price reduction. Now, that being said, I think there's some great deals in La Mesa right now around the Village, which is growing. I think there's some great deals in Escondido right now and certainly over in San Marcos. But I think that this is as much a price question as it is a location question in San Diego right now, because you take a $500,000 San Diego house versus a $650,000 San Diego house, you're talking about a significant difference. $650 doesn't move because there's no fuel to move it. $500 moves or $450 moves because there's a lot of cash down in the bottom of the market.
Right. Yeah. Very, very good point. And in fact, I wasn't expecting you to answer the question that way, but it's actually a really intelligent answer. It makes a lot of sense. The deals are where the deals are, essentially. Right. And did you want to pick a specific area? Do you
I think right now, I think the 78 corridor. I'm doing some work up in San Marcos right now. My office is in Scripps Ranch. That school district still moves pretty rapidly. 78 corridor, I think San Marcos, I'm seeing some pretty good ratios of list price versus buy price. I think that's a pretty good area. And I also think La Mesa right now is a pretty good area to be in.
I like both those areas too. I can see San Marcos for sure. Newer stuff. It's really clean up there.
It really has.
You got a lot of access to a lot of different things. You got everything you need right up there. You don't need to really go anywhere. I've always liked La Mesa, just kind of nostalgically.
It's a fun place.
My daughter was born in La Mesa, so
cool.
I'll always like La Mesa probably. Jim, what do you think? Where are all the gems hiding?
I'll tell you that I'm going to get a little bit more specific. The gems are hiding in Imperial Beach. Imperial Beach is by far, and it's crazy how we look at Imperial Beach as the redheaded stepchild of beach communities, and it is growing and it is developing. Marriott just put a brand new 4-star, what do they call it? Autograph Beach Resort in, and they're in the planning stages for another one. The Navy just announced that they just announced a $700 million new campus for the Navy SEALs that are going to be moving down there.
That's true. I saw that.
What's even more amazing is the prices. The prices in IB right now is one of the few places, even July, which is the last time, July 2014, that we have data for, where the homes are actually selling above their list price still on average. So it's hot. But what's also pretty darn awesome about that is that IB is over 60% less as far as median house price compared to the other parts of San Diego coastal region. So you buy a house up and down the coast, it's going to cost you on average $836,000. In IB, it's going to cost you $330,000. That's amazing. What was really awesome about that is a middle class, typical family can actually afford to purchase a home right next to the beach. Right now, currently on the market is a 2-bedroom upgraded condo in a complex on the water, not across the street from the water, on the water, listed at $419,000.
What?
Yes, I have the MLS number and everything.
Wow.
So it is finally seeming to live up to its potential. It's the same dang ocean as everywhere else. It's got the same sand. It's got better waves in a lot of places. It's 20 minutes to downtown. It's 10 minutes to Coronado. It is the in my opinion, the gem of San Diego.
I like it. I like the justification, and I don't know if it's the same ocean though.
Well, I tell you, I know what you're going to say because of
this.
Mexico. But I'll tell you what's crazy, and I know this because my dad actually is an asphalt and concrete contractor. They built. United States treats most of Tijuana's sewage now. I don't know if you know that, but my dad helped build it, and so we see. We as in people who go to IB. I don't live in IB, by the way. I'm not just pimping my own place. There is not the same runoff issue that they've had in the past.
Discussion for another day.
Yeah,
but I don't know if it's the same ocean. Lynn,
Okay,
what do you think? Where are the gems?
Oh, I'm going to take
hiding?
this a whole different direction than
Please.
these two guys did. I think they're everywhere and at any time. And you just have to be aware of the changes in the market and what's going on at a particular time. And when I think of a deal, I kind of was more thinking from an investment standpoint because when you're looking for a home, it's kind of a level playing field in a lot of respects. There's pluses and minuses for every community and all of that. If it goes on the MLS, and seriously, Jim, if it's on the MLS and it's sitting there, it's going to sell for market value because that's there for everyone to see. I think in order to get a deal, and I believe this with all of my heart, is that you need a good realtor. And I'm speaking to your listeners right now. Mm-hmm. That can make all the difference in the world.
You mean off-market deals, pocket listings?
No, because I actually am currently working with a repeat good investor client of mine. And he asked me, I took him to a property. It had been on the market for 45 days. So, I'm going to kind of eat my words on the MLS thing and going at market value. But he asked me, would you partner with me on this? Yeah. So we expect to make maybe a cool $75,000 in about 60 days on that property. And I am going to toot my horn on that. I think that it makes a difference who you're doing business with. And I recently had a property listed for sale, and I was brought a full price offer from an agent that worked for an online company that promises their clients that they'll rebate a part of the commission. And those poor buyers will never know why they didn't get that property. And it makes me sad because they should have had it. They were willing to pay full price for this property, and they didn't get it because their agent didn't know the business, didn't know how to write an offer. And that bothers me. And that's stuff we see in the industry. But I'm just telling you, sometimes people get involved in what is this going to cost me? You charge, too much or for your services and all of that. And I just want to ask them, if you're looking for a financial advisor, do you want the guy that's free and cheap? Or are you going to hire the guy that's going to make you a lot of money?
Yeah.
You know what? To me, it's so amazing that the whole culture in real estate has turned that way. And a lot of people think, well, I can do what you do. It's easy. I just need somebody that'll put it in the MLS and do the paperwork for me or something like that. Well, probably the reason they have that impression of the industry is because they're working with those type of agents and those type of cookie cutter agents. So I think that you align yourself with an agent. Does your agent invest in real estate? Does your agent own his home? Her home.
Okay, that's a very good question, by the way. In fact, I'm going to give you another point for that because
Thanks.
the reality is it should be like question number one. You're interviewing your agent. Mm-hmm. Do you own your own home? Because they're believe it or not, there are a lot of real estate agents that don't own real estate, and I think that's crazy. And working with someone who knows what they're doing is by far the greatest advantage that you can have in this game, not just because of the fact that they've done it before or they have experience doing it, but because they know what's going on. There's equity in the information that they see and go through every single day that they can pass along to you as their client, and that is where the value is. So it definitely makes a lot of difference. Very good stuff from everybody. All right, when we come back, our final debate topic. According to Altos Research, at the end of July in San Diego, almost 50% of the homes listed for sale had a price reduction associated with them. Does this tell us anything specific about the state of our market? We will have our in-studio experts make you smarter than everyone else when we come back on Your Lunch Hour with Mr. Credit, ESPN 1700. All right, it's time for the win. Who's going to take home this golden microphone trophy and be the real estate debate champion for the next 7 days? Will it be Brian Curry from Coldwell Banker, briancurry.com? Could be Lynn Judson from Judson Real Estate, judsonrealestate.net. Could be Jim Tyner from Home Solutions Group, homesandloans.net. Very close match. Brian Curry, you have the least amount of points right now.
I do.
Which means that you will be starting this segment. Now, topic number 3 is based around some information I received from Altos Research. According to their research, at the end of July in San Diego, almost 50% of the homes that are still listed for sale on the market have a price reduction associated with them. So does this tell us anything specific about the state of the market, and how should the average home buyer interpret this type of information?
I think it tells us a tremendous amount about the state of the market, and I think it really segues back into everything else that we've talked about in terms of, and I go back to consumer confidence as being the big player in this. The median price of a home in San Diego right now is $460,000. The median price. The average list price of a home in San Diego right now is $762,000. So median versus average list price, significantly different. It's telling the consumer that the guy that's in the 700 and plus home, he needs to get out. So, you go, and I think that we're in a 2014 hangover from 2013 pricing. You go back, and I do a lot of absorption rate calculations, which is basically the premise of an absorption rate is if I stopped listing houses tomorrow, how long would it take me in a specific neighborhood, zip code, area to sell all the houses off? A year ago in spring, the absorption rate was less than 45 days on average in San Diego County. The absorption rate in San Diego County now is above 3 months. So we have this significantly elongated market, and I think it drives back into consumer confidence. The consumer looks at what's going on the borders, what's going on with our leaderships, what's going on internationally. He's looking at rates which are still significantly good, but he's also waiting for the seller to blink. And I think statistically, when you look at that difference between a median and a list price, it's telling me that there's really no fuel in the market. That low-end property, not low-end property because there's no low-end property in San Diego, is there?
No, there isn't.
But the $400,000 sale, which is the husband, wife, 2 kids, and a dog that wants to go to the $650,000 great school district, he doesn't have enough fuel in the market because he's lost so much equity over the course of between 2007 and 2009.
You're saying the move-up buyer.
The move-up buyer does not have enough push to make it work in the market right now.
Doesn't have the momentum he needs.
And I think the sellers are now saying, wait a second, I thought the market was pulling along. You remember, sellers go on Trulia first, or Zillow first, or Realtor.com, wherever they go to find their information. Then they usually call us because they've already been empowered by the internet to know what numbers really look like. Whether those numbers are right or not is our responsibility as brokers to come in and explain to them. But I think you have a lot of sellers that saw this great run-up, and there's an emotional piece for the seller in the market that says, I must be worth this much. Well, the reality is the consumer has stepped back and said, you know what, I'm going to wait until you reduce, and you will or you won't sell.
Yeah, great stuff. Wow, scored a lot of points there, Brian. Actually taking over the lead here in the real estate debate. Lynn Judson, this almost 50% of the homes listed for sale, according to Altos Research, have a price reduction associated with them. What does this tell us, and how should the average person interpret that?
Well, first of all, I think the most important stat is the sold stat, and watching the pricing on solds. Because, even being in this industry, and I think I'm really smart, and I'll go in and tell people what, they should market their property at. and they end up telling me what they want to price it at. And, go along to get along. Sometimes we all do. I'm telling you right now, we'll put a property on the market at the price that the seller set. And it may have nothing to do what is going on in the market. Having said that, what I think that this particular stat that you're talking about is more about, we did just come off a fabulous year, in real estate in 2013, and everybody's high-fiving and feeling good, and getting and deciding, to get their house on the market or whatever because they're seeing what's going on, and it didn't keep going. We couldn't keep going up 20% a year. It just wasn't going to happen. But when we leveled off, actually some people thought it dropped off, and it really didn't. We're still climbing. So a lot of sellers were overexcited about that market last year. Multiple offers. I had 15 offers on my home and all that, and you heard that, and agents. And I think even in our industry, a lot of agents have overpriced properties based on the history. Because look, that's what we have is history to do our pricing, and I think it was just a little overzealous, and that's all really that I attribute it to, honestly, and that it needed to happen. We had just overpriced things a little bit, but I went to try to find that article that you had quoted on this because I wanted to look at their sources and all of that, and because a lot of times we're talking national, and I like to keep things local because real estate is local. If you start talking national, sometimes it just doesn't apply here in San Diego. We kind of have our own thing going here.
Well, Altos Research does research across the country, but this was specifically for San Diego proper. Not San Diego County necessarily, but I like your point here specifically about the fact that, looking at price reductions, you're talking about homes that are still on the market. We don't really know what that means yet until they're closed deals. I think that is huge, and I'm going to give you an additional point.
Well, I want to get one more point so I can make one more point.
I have to cut you off, just for time reasons. Sorry, I want to make sure that Jim has a chance to talk here. Jim, what do you think about the stat in these homes that have had prices reduced? Does that mean anything to the market or to someone looking to buy today?
Sure. Well, I think first off, the percentage of homes reducing today is nothing like it was, say, in late or 2008 when we were having this massive just slide in the market. We were just getting murdered, and I mean, websites were making, that's when, see the latest price reduced home first came on. Like they first developed that button because there were so many and people were so focused on that. But I think more importantly than that is that sellers are not reducing their price to escape this sinking ship that we saw, say, in 2008. Sellers are reducing their price because they also read the newspaper. They also saw, I think, Brian, you mentioned that, they have this kind of idea and grandiose idea of what their home is worth based on the media output and what people are saying. And so they might price their home a bit higher than they would or should. And this is like a comeback to reality exercise for them. And so I think that so if they really want to sell, they're going to reduce their price. And I think in the future, we're going to see we're going to see agents and people really pricing their home just based on the comps instead of the comps being comparable homes that have sold recently, as opposed to what we've been doing, which is the comps plus 5%.
Sure. Well, I think the conversation, and that's a great point, Jim, I think the conversation, and this is the responsibility of the broker, truly, because we go in, we show them how we market, we show them how we do everything, and then we show them the comps. The question that I always ask my sellers, and it's a more prevalent question now than ever, is are you going to be in the market or are you going to be on the market? Because if you're in the market, you're a home seller. If you're on the market, you're just looking for somebody to buy it.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between those two things. And I know there's sellers out there listening right now, and that's the message. Yep. Do you want to be in the market or do you want to be on the market? Because you have to look at the psychology of the market as well as the numbers of the market.
Very, very, very good point to end on, and an extremely close, in fact, the closest real estate debate we have ever had. Brian Curry, really appreciate everything that you brought to the table today. Lynn Junset as well. Thank you guys so much for being here, winning by 1 point. Jim Tyner, you have won the real estate debate. Congratulations,
man. Thank you for you guys. You guys are awesome.
The golden microphone home today. Now, in that last segment, each contestant was winning at 1 point. I mean, that is how crazy this is. You guys did a fantastic job today. Really appreciate it. Everyone go have an amazing weekend. Be safe out there. We'll be back again on Monday at noon, of course. to make you smarter than everyone else. We'll see you then.
Good.